The Cytokine Plurality, Book 1 of the Nanobot Trilogy. Chapter 1. Butterflies are not always free. Imagine the world without sound. No sounds of birds chattering in the trees. No hum of summer cicadas as the hot night drops into darkness. Raindrops do not tap the window. Waves do not roar as they pound the sand. The tea kettle blows steam but does not whistle. There is no music. But imagine if you were able to make a deal with God. He will take your hearing, but in exchange he will transform your vision so that you capture the brightest reds, yellows, and blues in a home garden or in your classroom. And you will learn to distinguish rose, fuchsia, watermelon, salmon, and other varieties of the color pink in the blink of an eye. In addition, you instinctively sort out the scent of wet leather from fresh leather, candle smoke from fireplace smoke, and grass that is wet from rain versus recently watered grass. In short, every other sense that is essential to experiencing the world as a human being will be amplified, and you will experience reality from a fresh and entirely new point of view. But is it a fair trade? Hearing matters, and as a child, your ability to relate is what is affected and what ultimately matters when your senses are compromised. Van Eng wasn't thinking about any of this as she ran out the front door to greet the summer breeze, the wet grass, and the bright dandelions. To a 6-year-old, deaf or not, the front yard is its own universe and full of opportunities for delight, surprise, and just fun. She ran and felt her heart beating and lungs pulling for air. She ran until she was exhausted and fell down in the fresh, wet grass that captured her nose and tickled her exposed arms and legs. Mom stood at the door admiring her daughter and stifling the pangs of sadness she felt whenever she thought what Van was missing by being deaf. Van was not born deaf. She was a healthy 8-pound and 4-ounce baby girl reaching out for life with her screams and coos and tears. But when Van was barely a year old and still not able to walk, the family accepted the generosity of a rich uncle, grabbed only what they could carry, and in the dark of night ran for the boat that would take them away from a frightening, despotic government. They bounced through overhead waves in a small dinghy, and then accepted the help of anonymous hands who pulled them onto the gangway and shepherded them into the bowels of a large freighter. Wet and tired, they huddled together that night and the many nights to come, until Van became sick with fever and dysentery. Fearful for their daughter's life, Mom forced her way to the boat deck to get sun and scraps of food. She found pain medicine and crushed it into powder to be added to the little bit of water that was now all that was left in Van's bottle. It calmed the fever and helped Van and her parents sleep just a bit despite their exhaustion. One morning, a few weeks after this harrowing existence, men with guns boarded the freighter and found the huddled mass of refugees in the hull. They pushed and kicked them into several small boats, and the refugees who thought they were going to Australia and expected to hear welcoming words in English found themselves yelled at in Khmer, in open pens in Cambodia. Who would have thought that their plans for escape to a better life would go so far astray? But at least the food there was better than on the boat, and there was medical help from a volunteer group called Doctors Without Borders, and Van began to recover. Except that she did not completely recover. Mom noticed that Van seemed to be staring a lot and was not responding to her words. She took the child back to a makeshift clinic and presented her to one of the young doctors. That doctor had a worried look and took the baby to discuss with her team. When she returned with a steely expression, Mom knew not only that something was wrong, but exactly what it was. In addition to having a fever, Van's eardrums became infected and had swollen and burst, coating the inside of her inner ear with scar tissue, and Van was no longer able to hear. Months later, the family found a sponsor and flew to San Francisco, where they settled in a Vietnamese community and began to build a new life. Dad became a chef. Mom found work at a garment factory, and the community supported them and played mahjong regularly together. Eventually, they found a small house with a nice front yard, where now a spry 6-year-old Van rolled in the grass and pulled up dandelion stems to see the milky liquid from the flower's stem flowing into the palm of her hand. Unlike Mom, as soon as Van ran out the door, she immediately detected a few minor differences from the day before. The rain from yesterday was gone, and today the sun baked the grass even though it was still wet from the morning dew. The mailbox had been left open, suggesting that Mommy had run into the rain to retrieve the mail, but rushing to get back inside and out of the rain, she left the box open. Daddy's car was gone, which was odd, since Daddy worked very late hours and often slept in until lunch. Maybe they needed him for a special breakfast. Down the road was a single car. It looked old, and the front bumper, instead of bright chrome, seemed to be a reddish orange. Unlike dirt, but not clean and new. The car was running, which Van knew because white steam was coming from the tailpipe. But none of this information meant much to Van. After being locked inside for 2 days of rain, all she cared about was running and rolling and smelling and looking at the sky. She glanced over at Mommy in the doorway and felt her love and watched as Mommy's head spun back toward the house, and then looking quickly back at Van, she held out a flat hand as if to say, "Do not move, I will be right back." Van had no intention of moving. The grass was cool, and the sky was full of cottony clouds telling stories of rabbits and elephants. Which is why what happened next caught no one's attention. Van smelled the smoke of an old cigarette, much like Daddy's brand, only this man was not Daddy. He had mean eyes and dirty khaki pants, and one of his new boots was coming untied. But it hurt when he grabbed her arm, and she quickly looked back to the front door. Mommy had not yet returned. She screamed as best she knew how to, but she was quickly bundled up and pushed into the car's back seat. The cracked leather of the seat scratched her face, and she could smell the old empty cigarette packs that were strewn on the floor. She tried to get up, but another pair of hands pulled her deeper into the back seat and leaned over her to lock the door. She watched as a woman grabbed her hands and pushed them into a hooded sweatshirt that was pulled over her head and her hair tucked into the neck of the sweatshirt. The sweatshirt was soft, like velveteen. It smelled like it was brand new. She felt the car accelerate, and a deep, uncertain fear made her shake and start to cry as she knew what was now happening was not right. Who were these strange people? And why did they take her from Mommy and the beautiful sky?